跟住落嚟係有兩個嘅環節，我哋好高興咧係請到有兩個海外嘅嘉賓團隊啦，同我哋去分享翻照顧者需要評估工具啦，同埋照顧者朋輩支援計劃嘅。咁第一個嘉賓團隊咧係嚟自英國嘅 Triangle Consulting Social Enterprise Limited， 咁將會由佢哋嘅主席阿 Joy 咧就係分享翻一套照顧者需要評估應用工具，個名咧係叫做 Carer Star 嘅。咁另外啦，阿 Joy 即係分享完之後咧，就會有幾分鐘嘅時間咧，同大家有一個答問嘅時間。咁如果即係大家喺 Woofer 上邊，即係喺個過程入邊，可以都有一啲嘅留言啦，又或者有啲提問咁樣樣。咁阿 Joy 同埋佢嘅團隊咧，都係去回應翻大家嘅。咁而第二個嘅團隊嘉賓咧，就會係嚟自澳洲嘅。咁佢哋有一個嘅社企計劃咧，係叫做 Rivers， 咁就係分享翻照顧者朋輩嘅支援計劃嘅。咁而呢兩嘅環節咧，都會由我哋嘅 Care 學院計劃督導主任方慧珊女士去主持嘅。咁我哋首先將時間咧交俾阿 Joy 去介紹翻 Carer Star 呢一套嘅照顧者評估工具。唔該，阿 Joy。
Welcome to this presentation on the Carer Star. My name's Joy MacKeith. I'm co-creator of the Carer Star and co-founder of Triangle, the social enterprise behind the stars. And I'm joined here with you today by Laura Baker, who supports organisations to implement the STAR and trains workers to use the STAR, and Angela Calabes, who manages our relationships with organisations using the STAR around the world. It's a particular pleasure for me to be with you today because although I'm recording this presentation from the UK, I actually started life in Hong Kong, and I thought you might be interested to see this picture. That's me in the centre front there with a group of health workers from the Nethersoul Hospital where my father worked. So just to put this presentation on the Carer Star into context, the Carer Star is one of a suite of 40 tools collectively known as the Outcomes Star, which are all tailored, different versions are all tailored to particular needs and circumstances. So you can see on this slide here, we have the Work Star, which is for services that are supporting people back into work, and the Justice Star, which is for people in the criminal justice system. The Outcome Stars have been around for about 15 years, and they're very widely used in the UK and Australia, with over 1,000 organisations currently using different versions of the STAR, and over 1 million stars having been completed on our online application. They're used by local authorities, statutory sector around the world, and also by charities. And yes, as I just said, they're used primarily in the UK and Australia, but also in many countries around the world. And we have translations into 15 different languages, including the Outcome Star for Homelessness, which is being translated into Chinese and is being used in Hong Kong by the Salvation Army. And of course, the Carer Star, which has been translated into Chinese and will be used in the Carers College here in Hong Kong. So yes, let's start talking about the Carer Star and what it is. Well, it's a multi-purpose tool for service users. It's designed to support them to get an overview of their situation, to identify their priorities, and to start helping them see what steps they can take towards achieving their goals. For the organisation providing support, it's a way of providing consistent and structured, person-centred, holistic and assets-based key work. So that's both the assessment and the ongoing work to support the person. And for everybody concerned, it's a way of getting a picture of how things are changing, what the outcomes are of the support that is being provided. So here you see the Carer Star. It was developed with a number of organisations providing carer support around the UK, and those organisations identified 7 key outcomes or 7 key issues that are important to carers. And you can see these arranged around the star. So we have health, that's the health of the carer, the caring role, how equipped they feel to be able to perform their caring role and to do that in a sustained way. Managing at home, so the extent to which their home is suitable, the extent to which they're able to carry out daily tasks at home. Time for yourself, so that's whether or not the person has the time that they need away from their caring role. Your feelings, So that's the emotional well-being of the carer, finances, and work. So how able the person is to juggle their caring role with work if they need to work. So for each of those 7 outcome areas, there is a 5-point scale. And as you saw on the last slide, those are arranged in a star shape. For each point on each of those scales, there is a description of what it means to be at that point of that scale. So it's not a question of, on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you feel, where 5 is terrible, and where 1 is terrible and 5 is good. It's actually a defined scale. And here on this slide, you can see the definitions for the scale, how you feel, and the scale, and a bit of the scale of finances. So if we just take the example of being at a 5 on the how you feel scale, the statement there is, I mostly feel calm and positive enough and can deal with the pressures of being a carer. There are also more detailed descriptions for each of the scales to support real accuracy in that assessment. So this is a really key part of the outcome star, and that is the journey of change, which is our understanding of the stages that a carer goes through from being not well equipped at all to managing their caring role to things being as good as they possibly can be in terms of being able to continue to be a carer and to have a reasonable quality of life. So I'm just going to talk you through this journey of change now. As you can see, the first stage is cause for concern. So at this stage, there are risks. Maybe the person isn't going to be able to continue in their caring role. Maybe there are concerns about the well-being of the carer or of the person that they're caring for. But they don't have help, or if help is being offered, they don't feel able to accept that help for whatever reason. So there are concerns and things are not moving forward. The next stage is getting help. So at this point, there is help available and the person does feel able to accept that help. Probably sort of pressing, urgent issues are being addressed and a conversation is being begun about how to improve things in the medium and longer term as well. So from there, we move on to making changes. So at this point, things are happening, things are changing, maybe more support's being put in place, maybe there's equipment in the home, maybe the carer is trying to do things differently. But at this stage, things haven't really improved. It's just really the beginning of putting things in place. So things still could be quite difficult. But then we move on to finding what works. So now we have some things in place and the carer has learned, oh, this piece of equipment makes a difference, this one doesn't. Or if I do things in this way, it helps, or this kind of support makes a difference, but maybe this kind of support doesn't. So they're finding what works to help them sustain their caring role. And some things have improved, but things could still be better. So then we move on to as good as it can be, which is the point at which the carer has reasonable well-being, they can continue their caring role, and there's everything's been done to put things in place to make things work for the carer. We're going to talk about how the STAR actually works in practice. So it's a conversational tool, so the carer and the person supporting them would sit down and would have a conversation about all 7 of those outcome areas. They would talk about how things are, what's working, what the problems are, and they would look at the scale point descriptions as well and identify which statement fits best for that person at this point in time. So when they've done that for all 7 areas, those points, those readings can be plotted onto the STAR, and you can see here in red the first reading following a conversation. And once you have that, once you have those points on the STAR, you've joined the dots, it provides a very simple visual and intuitive picture of the overview of how things are right now for that person. And that's a really good basis for identifying priorities, for setting goals, and for agreeing actions to achieve those goals. So that would be done. There is also a kind of an action plan template within the STAR. And then the carer and the worker go ahead, follow up on those actions. And at a point later down the line, when they've had a chance to do the things that they agreed and see what difference those have made, they come back together and go through the process of completing the star again. And then they can plot the new readings on the star. And as you can see there in green, you get another quick, intuitive shape of how things are now. That's also a good point for reviewing, for agreeing new goals, new priorities, new actions. But what it also does is give both the carer and the person that's supporting them a really clear picture of what's changing and what's not changing. And what people often tell us is it's really motivating to see, oh, actually things are changing. It may not be that everything's great, perfect right now, but at least I can see that progress is being made. People find that very motivating. And when progress isn't being made, it identifies that and is a good starting point for a conversation about maybe thinking differently about what's needed. I just want to say a little bit about the principles behind the Carers Star. And these are the principles that lie behind all of the different versions of the Outcome Star. So the first is empowerment. So what the star focuses on is the person's relationship with the issues that they're facing, the things that they can do to make progress, rather than the severity of the problems. And as you could see from the journey of change, it's a very developmental understanding that underpins the star, and it provides for the service user a clear picture of what they can do and what the next steps are. So it's intended to be, and is in practice, empowering for the service user. Another principle is that it's a collaborative tool. So it's not something that the service user takes away and completes on their own. And equally, it's not something that's for the support person to interview the service user and then make their assessment. It's something that they do together. It's jointly owned, and the picture, the star that arises out of it, is something that reflects the perspective of both parties, and is therefore a really good foundation for working together. Finally, as a measurement tool, it's integrated into the service delivery process. So different from other measurement tools, which might be something additional that the service has to complete or the worker has to complete sort of over and above their caring role, their support role. This is something that's a core part of the service delivery. So the measurement data, the outcomes data, is a product of the delivery of the service rather than an additional task. So on to slide 12. The Carers Star is already widely used in the UK and in Australia. There have been 30,000 completions on our online app, and there are over 60 organisations that have been using the tool for 2 years or more. So it's very well embedded in their practice. And you can see here on this slide the names of some of the organisations that are using the tool, the Carers Star. So to finish, I'd just like to give you a little bit of a picture of the kind of outcomes data and outcomes reports that are possible when using the Carers Star. So if we move on to slide 13, what you see here is a snapshot of the needs of people coming into a service at the point at which they are being assessed and just beginning, so before support has started in earnest. So as you can see, it's a color-coded bar chart that gives you a picture for each of the different outcome areas of what percentage of people were at different points of the scale. So if we look at the work scale, we can see that actually needs were quite low there. For most people, 72% things were as good as they can be. But if we look at time for yourself, we can see that there are a lot of the people at this stage who are coming in at the red or the amber or the yellow. So that's stages 1, 2, and 3. So they have quite a lot of needs in relation to making time for themselves. So if we move on to slide 14, this shows how star data can give you a picture of what's changing across the different outcome areas. So you can see here that for time to yourself, the bar shows that 49% of the people who completed the star twice had showed improvement in their reading on Time to Myself between the first and the second star that they completed. And the wavy line above it shows us that 1.48 was the average amount of change that had happened. So on average, people moved 1.5 steps up the journey of change, which probably means that most moved up 1 point or 2 points. So that concludes our presentation on the Carers Star. And thank you very much for your time and attention. And myself and Angela and Laura are available now to answer any questions that you may have.
Hello， 歡迎咧阿 Joy、Angela 同埋 Laura 嚟到我哋現場同我哋分享啊。Thank you, Joy, for your sharing. Hello, Joy, Angela, and Laura. Welcome to the conference. Now we will help to ask some questions from the audience, please. Hello, can I see here? Hello, Joy.
Hello.
Angela, Laura, welcome to the conference.
Hello.
Hello. It's very nice to be here.
Hello. Hello. Happy to see you. There is a question asked about, is there any follow-up actions if the specific key outcomes on the scale is 5? 有現場朋友咧就問到咧，如果咧嗰個核心範疇咧已經喺5分嘅時候咧，會唔會有一啲嘅進一步嘅行動去支援個照顧者嘅咧？May Joy please answer these questions, or Angela or Laura?
Laura, would you like to take that one? Is there any follow-up actions if somebody's at 5?
I think what the star will do, obviously, if somebody is at a 5, that will indicate that everything is okay, so it's as good as it can be. So I think as a worker, the follow-up action would be to help a carer to maintain that end point on the star. So it's about helping that person, that carer, to stay there at that end point of the star and put that appropriate support in place.
如果攞到5分咧，即係話咧呢個照顧者咧，其實咧所有嘅嘢都好好噶啦。咁咧，所以要做嘅嘢咧，其實咧係去 maintain 咧，去維持翻咧佢而家個狀況，等佢咧可以繼續咧去做一個好嘅照顧者啊。
Okay, thank you. And there is another question is about the kinds of carers that the carer star supports. They want to know what kind of carers do actually carer star is going to support. 有啲朋友咧都有問到咧，即係照顧之星咧，其實係支援緊邊一啲類型嘅照顧者嘅咧？Joy, please.
The Carer Star was developed to support a whole range of carers, so it's not specifically for a particular kind of carer. Laura might know more than me about young carers because Laura, do you know if it's used at all with child carers?
Excuse me. Yeah, so it is used with some young carers, but there are other versions of the star available that support young carers. But there isn't a star specifically for a younger carer group. But we do have some additional resources to support the use of Carers Star with a younger age group. And the people that are using the Carers Star as well, they could be caring for people with a range of issues, whether it's dementia, whether it's somebody with a terminal illness, whether it's mental health, whether it's substance misuse. So it's used across a wide range of caring roles.
係呢個照顧之星咧，其實咧係喺呢個講座有講到，佢照顧咗好多唔同類型嘅一啲嘅需要嘅人嘅，譬如頭先應該講到有係啦，有呢個無家可歸啊等等嘅人嘅，咁所以係唔同嘅人都照顧到嘅。咁特別有位講者講到咧係，如果係年輕嘅 young carers 咧，咁可能佢有啲另外一啲嘅資源咧係俾呢啲嘅 young carers 嘅嚇。咁亦都係頭先講到啦可能係有唔同嘅病啦，精神病啊、身體有疾病嘅人嘅，咁所以可以話係所有類型都有。咁如果係特別係young 啲嘅話咧，就可能係要另外一啲比較專門啲嘅一啲嘅服務咁都唔定嘅係。
Okay, may I ask one more question from the audience that Could you suggest some activities or goals for the key outcomes of time for yourself in the action plan？咁都仲有一位朋友咧，即係都想問到咧，如果喺個人時間心範疇裏邊咧，可唔可以都建議一啲行動方案啊，或者個目標內容咧，可以俾個 workers 同就俾個工作員同個照顧者可以去進行咧咁？Would Joy or Angela please answer these questions?
I can make a start. I think that the most important thing with say that outcome area, as with most of the outcome areas, would be to have a conversation and find out what's really important to that particular person around time to themselves. For some people, it might be being able to get out in the evening to go to an evening class, or for some people it might be having a walk during the day or being able to visit a friend. So really, first of all, it's about saying what's the thing that really matters to you, and then having established that, looking at ways to make that possible if that's not happening at the moment, or make it possible more often. So possibly respite, somebody else to step in and enable them to go and do that activity that matters so much to them.
咁最重要應該咧係同呢個人呢個照顧者咧去傾下啦。究竟對於佢嚟講最重要係咩咧？可能佢中意係夜晚去散步啊，咁嘅時候咧，咁就唔係揾個人照顧下，幫佢手照顧佢嗰個照顧嘅嗰個人咧，等佢可以夜晚去散步啦。咁所以最重要都係睇下呢個人個別嗰個需要喺邊度，大家傾好咗，咁就讓佢咧可以做一啲佢想做嘅嘢，俾佢可以去休息 relax。
Okay, 唔該晒。That's all for the Q&A section. Thank you so much, Joy, Angela, and Laura for answering our questions. Now we have better understanding on the carer star assessment. Thanks again and goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.